Oh, that's a sound that has not been heard in more than 12,000 years. Those direwolf pups were brought back from extinction using ancient DNA, cloning, and gene editing technology. Colossal Biosciences, a Texas-based biotech company, says these pups are essentially a hybrid species created using altered genes of a gray wolf. Romulus and Remus were born last October. They are marking a major milestone in de-extinction efforts. They also have a little sister, Khaleesi, that was born in January.
Yeah, that reference isn't lost on us, right? Game of Thrones people. The name wasn't enough to give it away. Yeah, these are the same fearsome canines that were featured in that HBO series, Game of Thrones. Let's get right to Beth Shapiro, Chief Science Officer at Colossal Laboratories and Biosciences. All right, so Beth, there seems to be some debate in our newsroom on if the pups are cuddly companions or vicious killers, or perhaps this is something they age out of or into. But you can tell us, but also just tell us, why bring back dire wolves?
Well, I would say that right now they're pretty much cuddly companions, especially Khaleesi. She's only 2 months old and she is adorable. She's just about reached the age where we're going to introduce her to her brothers. Her brothers are 6 months old. They're about 80 pounds, so they're larger than the largest gray wolves, and they have this white coat, which is a color that we learned by studying the genomes of extinct dire wolves. And so we're super excited to have the first de-extinct species and to have developed all sorts of technologies that are going to be able to help us to protect and preserve living species, which to me is really the ultimate goal of these technologies.
Why dire wolves specifically and not, say, something else? A woolly mammoth, velociraptor, Tyrannosaurus Rex?
I love how you went right to dinosaurs.
You know where I'm going.
Well, we've announced a colossal 3 species that we are working to bring back from extinction. That is the mammoth, the dodo, and the thylacine, which is also known as the Tasmanian tiger. And we didn't really tell people that we were also working on the dire wolf in the background. And so it's been 18 months it took between deciding that we were going to do this and these puppies first being born, which is pretty remarkable given how sophisticated and complicated the science is. One of the reasons to focus on the dire wolves is because they are so similar in many ways to their closest living relative. That's the gray wolf. They're just larger, more muscular, and they have this different coat color and texture and length and phenotype. So our goal with de-extinction is not to create something that's genetically identical to something that used to be alive, but to recreate functional copies of these animals. Ultimately, the goal with all of these projects is to restore animals to ecosystems that can help these ecosystems be more robust and resilient. And the direwolf is a great example of this first try because we know so much about gray wolves. Everybody has a favorite gray wolf. You probably see mine wandering behind me. They were really excited by the cries of Romulus and Remus that you played at the opening here. So hopefully they've calmed down now. But we know a lot about gray wolf genomics because domestic dogs are a gray wolf. And we can make informed decisions about how we're going to edit their DNA in a safe way that still lets us bring back these key traits that defined a direwolf.
So Beth, how do you, when undertaking a project like this, be it a dire wolf or some of these other efforts for other species, make sure that there aren't any sort of unintended repercussions? Because we have all, read or seen Jurassic Park. We know about unintended repercussions. How do you avoid that?
For the dire wolves, these animals are living on a 2,000-acre protected reserve. They are watched over day and night by a team of wolf professionals and animal care professionals. So we're certain that these dire wolves are not going to escape and harm anyone the way an escaped velociraptor might. When we're making the edits, and we're not making a velociraptor, I'll just come right out and say we're not working on dinosaurs so that we don't have to talk about it. When we're making them, we're really targeting specific phenotypes. So we're targeting, in this case, the size. We made DNA changes that will make them larger than gray wolves. wolves, more muscular than gray wolves. And we targeted this coat phenotype. So we made several changes to their DNA that so this is one of the most exciting things for me. When a wolf is born, normally they're dark colored, but when our wolves were born, they were white, as you saw. And this meant that the edits that we had made had successfully modified the way that animal looked. So we're doing everything that we can from both a genetic perspective and an animal care perspective to make sure that these animals live happily and healthily, and also that they're not going to escape and potentially compete with gray wolves, which is obviously not what we want.
But some of what you were describing before gave me the impression that you might consider releasing them into the wild. Is that accurate or no?
No, the plan with these dire wolves is for them to remain on this 2,000-acre ecological reserve. There are sections of this reserve that are more wild than other sections. So right now they've spent most of their time in the area where they can be watched over by people. But as they get older, especially the boys, Romulus and Remus, we're releasing them more into these semi-wild areas where we can start to learn about how they interact with this habitat. Long term, we have Indigenous partners who are interested in having small packs on Indigenous land, but this will take many conversations and many years about how to make sure that they would be protected. We're hopeful that this research is actually bringing more attention to the plight of gray wolves in general. Gray wolves are an endangered species, and we need to think about how important carnivores are in their ecosystem. And by drawing so much attention to the red wolves and the dire wolves, and we should talk about the red wolves, we're hopeful that people are going to start to think about the ways that they can interact with and work with gray wolves to give them a healthy and happy life.
They are so adorable.
They are.
Yeah.
Aw.
And then they grow up and get a little bit scarier.
But still beautiful.
Still beautiful. Beth Shapiro, thank you so much. Appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
Of course.